Hey, it's LS50 here today. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm excited to talk about my experience owning a 2022 Lexus NX450h Plus for the past 3 years. This has been Lexus' first plug-in hybrid, and we all don't know what it all means, right? So over the last 34,000 kilometers, I've learned a lot about what it's like to live with this car day to day. In this video, I'll break down the cost of ownership, give you a detailed comparison with other NX variants like the NX250, 350, and the 350h. In addition, my feedback on the Lexus overall experience and am I really experiencing amazing? Let's dive in. For those who are not familiar, the 2022 Lexus NX450h Plus is a plug-in hybrid. Because this was not Toyota's first plug-in hybrid, there was a less of a concern with the new technology or powertrains because the NX450h Plus has the same internals as the RAV4 Prime and now the RAV4 plug-in hybrid, and it was launched in Japan in 2020. It arrived the shores of the United States for 2021, so when you look at that, that was already in the market for about 2 years before I got my NX. I chose this model because I wanted flexibility for electric driving only range for short trips and have the power and range of a hybrid for longer drives. Since I work from home most of the time, I don't drive much, so for me it totally makes sense because I usually use my car for leisure and for errands. Knowing that the vehicle was going to be very hard to get hold of since there was a 2-year waiting list for the RAV4 Prime back in 2021. I put my name on the list in April 2021 even before Lexus announced the new NX, and we did not know if the NX would have a plug-in hybrid version. But based on our experience, we saw that the RAV4 had a plug-in hybrid. The assumption is that the NX will also get one. Originally, the vehicle was planned to come in late 2021, but due to chip shortages and all that, the vehicle was manufactured in January 2022 and it arrived my hands in late March 2022. Since then, I've put a total of 34,526 kilometers over the 3 years, which isn't a lot, but it's enough to see the difference in fuel savings and operating costs. So when we talk about operating costs, the NX450h Plus is a little bit different comparing to the other variants of the NX because we have to account for fuel costs, electricity costs, and public charging if you opt to do public charging. So right now you can see on the screen here, we have the gasoline costs for the 2022 NX450h Plus over the 3 years. So you can see that I've only filled up 15 times over the 3 years, 36 months. So when you look at that, definitely that is not a lot because normally if I had to go and drive 30,000 kilometers, I probably would have to fill a lot more and visit the gas station a lot more frequently. And the reason why it's actually 15 and not less, because you can see that I've actually driven the car for a few road trips over the 3 years. Without that, that probably would even be less because I typically fill up every 3 months. And that is a rule that I put in for myself, that I will want to use up all the gas in the gas tank within 3 months so that I don't have any stale gas or anything. We've talked about this a lot in previous videos. Lexus says that we need to fill 20 liters of fuel in the gas tank every year, but that probably would not be the best. So if we do look at it and say I fill up 4 times a year, that means it should just be 12. But now I'm at 15, which seems to still be very good. The last fill up that I've done is 117 days. There's a reason for that. Even though that I don't need to fill up a lot, April 1st, 2025 is when the consumer carbon tax was removed from our fuel. So there was about 20 cents of a decrease in pricing. So you can see that 169.9 is a lot cheaper than 184.9, right? So definitely that's the reason why I did it, and also because that's the day when I went to the dealership to do my 3-year service. So 117 days is the stretch that I've done for refueling. You can also see that fill up, I was able to drive 4,247 kilometers. That is impressive. And when you look at it, now I've only filled up 10 liters of fuel, and that right now gives me half a tank of gas according to the bar. Well, I think if I drive a few, like probably 10-15 kilometers in HEV mode, in the hybrid mode, I will just see 3 bars. I think I just reached the half point by just a little bit. So looking at that half tank would be enough for me for the next 3 months as well. Total cost $727. And this is all on premium fuel. And I know that there will be an argument that I'm wasting money using premium fuel. But then if I use regular fuel and keeping the gas tank for 3-4 months, I would rather have the octane of a 91 or 93 or 94 and let it degrade than having an 87 and have it degrade. So overall, again, because I'm not filling up that much, filling premium doesn't really hurt my wallet that much. And then when you look at it, liters per 100 kilometers, which probably is more of a magic number because a majority of the driving range is electric, and really, I don't even know how many kilometers was driven in hybrid, and that's one of my feedback, that there's not a lot of information in the car that can tell me that in this gas of tank, how many kilometers of hybrid range I've driven and how many kilometers is pure EV. Unfortunately, that information is not available. So at this point, over 3 years, $727, and you divide that by 3, you're only talking about $200 and something of gasoline per year. 2022 and 2023 was the year of an estimate, because I did not have a way to measure how much electricity I was using to charge up the vehicle. So it actually got a little bit hard for me to estimate, and all I did was I took the electricity I used in 2021 and then compared it to the electricity used in 2022 and 2023 and just did a delta to do the calculation. So going forward with 2024 and 2025, these are more accurate numbers, and you can see that the numbers have inflated a little bit more. And also on top of that, you have to keep in mind that there was price increases as well, and also being able to understand more, meaning these numbers probably are more accurate. Because based on 2022 and 2023, these numbers were more of taking how much it costs per kilowatt hour and then doing the number. For 2024 and 2025, it was a little bit different because I took the actual bill, divided by the number of kilowatts used, and then I multiplied by the number of kilowatts used for charging the vehicle to come up with this number. All right, so when you look at it, $334 of electricity used for 2024. Previous years, this one is a little bit lower because there's 3 months that are left out. And in addition, that probably the numbers are a little bit understated. When you look at the first 3 months of this year, we're at $110 already. So we multiply that by 4, we're talking about $400 and something of electricity use. You have to keep in mind also, in 2024, I did take a few weeks off, so I was not driving the vehicle at all. So that's why there was a decrease in cost as well. All right, so total overall, when you look at the total cost of electricity, we're talking about $728. Follow me on Instagram at LSFTvideos. You can see updates on my experience with the NX450h Plus, which may not be shown on any future videos. You can reach out to me via direct messaging if you have any questions on your Lexus. If you like this video, you can provide me feedback in the comments below, like this video, share it with your friends. This definitely will help with the YouTube algorithms. Press the subscribe button and bell icon and get notified when new videos show up. And lastly, if you want to support me further, you can provide me a super thanks, or visit my Amazon storefront before you purchase anything from Amazon, or you can purchase products from the list on the items that I've been using with my vehicle or at home at no extra cost to you. And now let's continue with the video. So you can see that in 2022, I've only charged 32 kilowatts, but all of that was free. So there was no cost of doing public charging, and there are still chargers right now that don't have any costs. In 2023, it was $19.67 that I paid. 2024, $35 was used for charging and 151 kilowatts. I've seen some charging places like the Toyota that's close to where I live. Before it was free, now they're charging like $3 per hour, which seems to be a little bit expensive in comparison to other places. So now in 2025, I've paid right now for $13.59, charging 76 kilowatts. So then with all that calculated together, gasoline, electricity, and public charging. So over the 3 years, it cost me $1,635.30 to charge, fill up with gas, and to drive the 34,475 kilometers, costing me about 4.7 cents per kilometer. Alright, so we convert this to kilometers to miles, so 21,427 miles driven, and converted the Canadian dollars to the US dollars to $1,142, which then gives me 5.3 cents per mile. So now let's get into the fun part, comparing the cost of ownership for the NX450h Plus and with the other variants. If you've watched my previous ownership videos, you've probably seen this spreadsheet already. So how does it stack up? So you can see here we have the NX450h Plus and gasoline costs $727. The total cost is $1,635.30. It could be a little bit more, maybe $1,700, okay? So then some people who don't like to use premium gas will probably look at, okay, using regular gas. So regular gasoline, it's going to save me about $121. All right, so that would become $1,500 or maybe $1,600. So definitely you can see not that big of a difference. But personally for me, this gives me a peace of mind. At least I have high octane and it doesn't need a boost. And it's a little bit of money to pay for just to make sure things are operating with the recommended fuel type. Definitely nothing wrong to use regular, and especially if you're a person who uses hybrid mode a lot, probably regular fuel will be not a problem. So then we look at the NX250. So if I had to drive the same kilometers using the 8.4 liters per 100 kilometers combined, and that's the combined official rating, we're looking at $4,345. So when you compare the NX250 with the 450h Plus, including electricity and public charging, we're looking at $2,710 more. There's more to it. Some people will argue the 250 is the most simplest NX. We won't have any problems. It will outlast any variant of the NXs. So I'm not going to argue here, but really this is just numbers based on cost of gasoline versus gasoline, electricity, and public charging. So when we compare the NX350, it's going to cost $6,117 to fuel the same kilometers. The 9.8 liters per 100 kilometers, in reality, is how many do get this number. When you look at it, the cost difference is about $4,480. That's quite a significant amount. But again, some will argue the cost of the vehicle is a lot more, so the break-even point is still far away. Then when you look at the NX350h, and most people would say this is the vehicle to get, because if you don't have a plug, this is the vehicle to get. It costs $3,745 to drive it in premium fuel. In regular fuel, it's $3,103, so you can see that there is about $600 difference between regular versus premium. So some people will opt to say, I am filling regular, which is totally fine. So when you compare that, you can see that it's a savings of $2,100 if you do a like-for-like comparison. And if you're comparing regular, you can also see that the regular with the premium that I'm paying for is about $1,468. All right, so if you do compare it with this cost of $606, so you're talking about $121 more, so about $1,600 difference. One important aspect of a plug-in hybrid is the EV range. So overall, from 3 years, the highest I've actual kilometers driven is 84.1 kilometers, and that is driving in local conditions and really in a perfect condition. So this year, I haven't really observed a drop in EV range. I would say that the highest I've got was 77 on the gasometer, but also in the winter, I've also seen in the 50 range. It's about 61 kilometers if you look at from an overall average standpoint, because in the winter times, I'm seeing sometimes if I drive on the highway, I only get like 40 something kilometers. But if I drive locally, I will get about 50-ish, and in a perfect world, about 58, 59. But in the summer, it's different. If I drive local roads, I can totally get 70, high 70s, and even 81 or 2 kilometers. But then if I drive the highway, it also burns the EV range a lot faster. So with summer conditions, if in EV range driving on the highway, I do get about 60, 61 kilometers. So overall, from what I'm seeing is from the 3 years, I don't see a drastic drop in EV range. There could be 1 or 2 kilometers of a drop, but I couldn't really see it. So this part is really designed for people who are interested in getting an NX, but they don't know which version to get. And also, if there's no wait times for all these, it'll be perfect. But I know some people who wanted a 450h Plus, but then they couldn't wait for it, so they actually got the 350h. So there's a lot of variables. But definitely, I think this is a good comparison because with 3 years of data, this will actually give you information on, is it worth getting the 450h Plus or it's actually not, and the 350 would be the better one to pick, or just the gas-only version would work as well. So what I did was I took the 2025 pricing and I purposely picked the F-Sport 3 for the gas only and the Executive for the hybrid and the plug-in hybrid as well. Because from there, feature-wise, they're very similar and allows us to have a like-for-like comparison. The only difference is the NX250 does not have all the features that you would see in the 350 or 350h or the upper trims, so that's why you can see a significant price difference. So looking at the NX250, it's about $62,000 Canadian. 350 F-Sport 3 is $82,000. We have the 350h Executive, $83,725. And then the Executive with a $5,000 federal rebate would be $86,000. There are other provinces that do have rebates, but these rebates are going away and the Canadian rebates are gone already. So without the rebate, it's $91,677. So what we did here is we took this without rebate to compare to $91,000. So it's almost $30,000 more for the 450h Plus compared to the top line 250. We have the 350 is about $9,600 more, and the 350h is about almost $8,000. And with the rebate, we can see that there's $5,000 difference. And this does make a big difference when you start looking at the break-even point. So operation costs, so $2,700 difference, $4,400 and $2,100. So based on the numbers that we just reviewed. So taking that information after 3 years, okay? So personally, I did not get a rebate, okay? So if I looked at it, it would still cost $27,000 more when you do that comparison after 3 years of owning my 450h Plus. But then I don't think I will enjoy the NX250 when I drive it. NX350, so $5,193. So I am still paying $5,000 more just when I calculate the cost of ownership. And then for the NX350h, it'll be $5,800. So overall, owning it for 3 years, I still have like $5,000 more. I'm still paying $5,000 more. If you did get the rebate, then you're breaking even very close. So then when you look at the kilometers driven based on my driving habits, I would need to go to 378,000 kilometers on my 450h Plus to break even, which is about 30 years away, and I don't think I'll be driving this car 30 years later. So then when you look at the NX350, so the gas only, it's 74,000. When I hit 75,000, I would have broken even. And then when you compare to the 350h, I'll have to drive 130,000 kilometers to actually break even when you just look at the money part. All right, so definitely a lot of people who actually get the 350h will say, yeah, I told you, 450h Plus is just not worth it because it costs so much more and you're not going to break even. But one thing I want to talk about is not everything on this planet is related to money. Yes, after 3 years, I'm still paying $5,800 more. If I bought the 350h, I would be better off. But then I would say I probably will not enjoy the NX as much as I enjoy my NX450h Plus today. I can tell you the $5,200 on the NX350, I drove the NX350 many times. Every time I do my service at the dealership, they will loan me an NX350. Don't get me wrong, the car is actually okay, but when you have a comparison with the 450h Plus versus the 350, even the 350h, it's a little bit different. The instant torque I get on the NX450h Plus, you just really can't compare. With zero noise, zero engine noise, the overall experience just feels different. Even though it looks exactly the same vehicle, but I can tell you, I can totally feel the difference. After driving the 350 and then picking up my car and taking my car back, I can totally understand how much I like my NX450h Plus. So the reality is it worth it? Yes. Even without the rebates, $8,000 more comparing to the NX350h and the 450h Plus, to me personally, it is worth it. Alright, so now I'm looking at the run flat tires and my set of winter tires that use regular winter compound. So I've been keeping track of the tire tread since I purchased the vehicle, so now roughly this is 3 years worth of data. Summer tires, meaning the run flat tires, driven about 20,000 kilometers, and the winter tires, it's about 14,000 kilometers, so very equal. Bridgestones, the run flat starts at 7.2 millimeters, and that's from their spec, and right now it's saying that I have 5.5 millimeters. And the funny thing is, November to April, those tires have not been driven, but I lost 0.5 millimeters. But then when you look at ruler, 0.5 millimeters, you probably can't even see it in your eyes. But then when you look at the winter tires, again, from November where it's been put on, driven till April, it did not lose any tread. Another weird thing. So then when we look at the measurement, 0.08 millimeters per 1,000 kilometers for the run flats, and then the 0.07 for the Michelin XI. So the run flats do lose a little bit more over the regular compound. When you look at this, it's very negligible, and I would say, based on what I'm seeing, I probably can drive this run flat tire for another 3 years before it needs to be replaced, which is not too bad. If you look at it, it's 6 years for myself. But again, I do not drive a lot. If you're a heavy driver, drive 24,000 kilometers a year, that will be a little bit different because you look at it, 20,000 kilometers, I'm at 1.7 millimeters lost. If you drive 24,000 a year just on these run flats, it's probably 3 years, and then, or 2 years, 2.5 years, you probably lost all the tread and you need to replace the tires. So this time when I did my 3-year service, Lexus actually measured my brakes. So the front brakes are 10 millimeters and the back brakes are 8 millimeters. And when you look at that, it seems like I still have a long way to go with these brakes. And probably another 6 years before brakes need to be replaced. So one of the things that I found the NX is lacking is really software. You can see here, owning the car for 3 years. 2022 had one update, 2023 had one, and 2024 had two. I was in June 2024, I was like, wow, it's only 4 months and we got a new update. And now when you look at it, I'm reaching almost a year, right? And I still haven't got the next update. We do know that there's a 2230 update, but it's not coming like monthly or every 2 months. It just seems like very random. In reality is, I think if they can continue to push updates, the customer experience and the experience would actually be better. So initially when the NX came out, there were a lot of issues with the infotainment system. The first update came and did some updates to it and it improved, but there has still been a lot of complaints that they cannot connect to CarPlay or Android Auto, or there are certain functions that doesn't seem to be operating perfectly. Over the time, things have improved, but definitely there is still lots of room for improvement. In addition, for the mobile app, there seems to be a lot of concerns, especially when it keeps on pulling the car for information and really draining your 12-volt battery to a softer update. Like the original update came out, they improved the UI of it, but then one thing that I would say, why can't Lexus owners have a different experience in comparison to the Toyota family? Our apps just look exactly the same. So owning an NX, owning an LS, owning a vehicle that is 3 times more expensive than a Corolla still has the exact same software. I think there needs to be something that will distinguish between the two brands, and really, why are we paying more for a Lexus in comparison to a Toyota? As I continue to complain about their software capabilities, I would say that it has definitely improved from day one to now 3 years later. But I would like to see this improve a lot faster and a lot better. Overall, definitely it's better, but still there is room for improvement. And reality is, I am not experiencing amazing when it comes to software. I would like to provide an update on the cable gate issue. So right now you can see here on the left side is 2 years and on the right side is now just currently. You can see that the cables doesn't seem to have that big of a difference. It's actually cleaner on the 3-year over the 2-year, but when you look at the conditions, I don't think it has changed that much. I have not been able to reach under and actually open it up and see what it looks like, but at this point it still seems okay. With the WEP at this point, I don't think there's any concerns. The replacement of the cable, especially for the 2022s, will be available. Still no updates on the 2023s and on any newer versions. I do know that in 2024, the cable was updated and there's more protection to it, so hopefully this is no longer an issue, but for what I'm seeing, not a big issue for myself. And then when you look at here, when it's 6 months old, it looks like brand new. Nothing has changed. In the 2-year point, everything seems to be fine, but now when you see the 36 months and it's in an angle, there's surface rust where you see I have the arrows, and there's also some rust on some of the bolts, a little bit of it, whereas in 24 months, there was really nothing. So 3 years, it's no longer a new car. And when you look at the condition after the car's been on the road for 3 years, the interior seems to be holding up very well. The dash cam that I got from FitCamX seems to be operating properly as well, so I have heard people complaining that it overheats and it dies, but it has not happened to me. I purposely didn't clean up the car so that you can see like a day-to-day driver what it looks like, and you can definitely see that there is some cleanup that needs to be done in the brake area, in the winter and all that salt, so it needs to have some cleanup. You can also see the Nulux seats. These are not leather seats. They held up quite well. Don't need to do any conditioning or anything, but definitely needs to do some cleanup. But overall, I would say it's held up very nice. I don't see any issues with the vehicle. And again, you'll see the piano black. It captures a lot of dust, unfortunately. And you look at the 14-inch screen after 3 years of usage without a screen protector, it seems to be holding up very well. So overall, I'm pleased with the vehicle. Definitely needs some vacuuming, needs some cleanup. And then when you look at the exterior paint, the cadmium orange continues to impress. There seems to be reflecting very well. I think stone chip wise, I've got a few stone chips, but overall I don't have any dents, but I touch on wood. Don't have any door dings or anything. Overall, the condition seems to be extremely pleasing. One thing to note is there is surface rust on the wheel locks and even on the lug bolts. You can notice here the wheel lock is supposed to be black, but now it's already all rust up. And then you can see on some of the lug bolts, it also has some minor rust overall. And I would say for the folks who don't need to change tires frequently, this shouldn't be a problem. But for me, I've actually had my tires swapped a few times, and this is the result out of it. Definitely, I can take them out and then sand it off, repaint them with rust paint, and it should be all okay. I wouldn't bother. If they do rust too much, I'll probably just get them replaced. There hasn't been any unplanned visits to the dealership in the past year, and everything seems to be operating fine. Knowing how the 12-volt battery is being charged is less concerning, and a trickle charge every 2 to 3 weeks seems to be okay. For short trips, I would just park in the garage when I get home, and then I'll let the car run for another 15 to 20 minutes so that it will charge up the 12-volt battery, which it does increase the kilowatt hour per 100 kilometer hour measurement, but it does ensure that there is no surprises when unlocking or starting the vehicle. I know that I won't be able to cover everybody's questions, so if you have any questions on my 3-year ownership experience, please leave a comment below and I will answer them as much as possible. And the final question is, do I regret buying the NX450h Plus over the other variants? Answer is no. And do I enjoy the vehicle? Yes. I hope that you found that this video was informative, and until next video, drive safely. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please comment, like, share this video, and if you want to see more videos like this, you can subscribe to my channel and press that bell icon to get notified when new videos are posted. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can provide me a super thanks. And until next time, cheers.